conflict in Sumer and later Egypt. As a result of Marduk's defiance over the calendar and the assigned regions, his actions led to his brother Dumuzi's death and interrupted Thot's rule in Egypt, forcing him into exile.
When Marduk became the ruler of the Egyptian region, he made great changes and established himself as the almighty solar deity. So what changes transpired after Marduk gained power to impose his calendar wishes in Egypt?
Marduk was also known as Amun-Ra in Egypt, and based on my research, was the being referenced by Enlil Yahweh as Lucifer in the biblical verse Isaiah 14:12. The Latin Vulgate term Lucifer, which appears in the King James Bible, replaced the term morning star, a celestial allusion to the planet Venus.
Consider that Isis claimed the planet Venus as her celestial sign, and her son Marduk occupying the city of Babylon was a very sore point for biblical editor Enlil Yahweh, Lord of the Command for the Mesopotamian region.
Could this perhaps be the catalyst that led to many wars between the Amalekites and Enki's clan, represented by Marduk's stubborn occupation of Babylon, his gateway to the gods?
Consider this fact. Every time you say a prayer and end it with Amen or Amen, you are praising Amun-Ra, Marduk.
After Marduk established the new solar calendar system, the lunar model used by Thot was in conflict and led to a quarrel and the eventual departure from Egypt to pursue creating his own new civilization.
Scientific evidence now clearly points to Thot's exile path to be connected significantly to South and Central America.
Could Thot's exile migration route have taken him all the way to Mesoamerica, land of the winged serpent? Perhaps the mysterious Olmec race in ancient Mexico can provide evidence to validate this hypothesis.
There are many theories about how the Olmecs came to be in Mexico. Some theories have them as Asian hunter-gatherers who trace their beginnings to shortly after the last ice age, about 12,000 years ago.
Other scientists, historians, and anthropologists, however, make convincing and confident arguments based on new evidence that the Olmec people can trace their roots back to Africa.
Numerous nautical map sources suggest that global winds and currents support the idea that ships could have sailed from Africa to the southernmost shores of Mesoamerica intentionally or accidentally.
For example, one branch of a northern equatorial current could have carried African sailors from North or West Africa into the Gulf of Mexico.
Let's look a little further to the origins of Olmec people to find further clues.
Numerous artifacts have been found in Mexico that portray a hieroglyphic style of writing that is very similar to those of the Mandingo people of West Africa.
Scholars recognize that the Olmecs engraved many symbols or signs on pottery, statuettes, and other objects that have been identified as potentially the earliest form of writing in the Americas.
Evidence suggests that the Olmec race in early Mexican records originated somewhere in Western Africa, perhaps around the Niger River Valley civilizations, approximately 3,200 BCE.
Language and mining skills were possessed by the Mandingo-speaking peoples near Ghana and Sierra Leone during the same period in history.
Could it be a coincidence that the Olmec brought with them stone masonry skills, gold mining practices, and language that also used calendar knowledge to establish an arrival long count inherited by the Maya?
Is the Mandingo race of Western Africa the ancestral source of the Olmec people? Much of the evidence seems to point to that. Let's look closer.
The Olmec culture may very well have been the first Mesoamericans to develop a writing system. Although there are disputes as to whether markings on recovered artifacts rise to the level of writing, there's enough evidence to suggest that the symbols found in 2002, dated to 650 BC, are actually a form of Olmec writing, preceding the oldest Zapotec writing, dated to about 500 BC.
The hieroglyph-style Olmec markings are similar to the writing used by peoples in ancient West Africa and Egypt. This evidence makes a strong case for this African Olmec origin hypothesis and helps connect the similarities seen in writing and building in both Egypt and Mesopotamia.
Evidence suggests that due to the solar-lunar calendar portal in Egypt, the exiled Thot gathered together Hermetic priests and stone builders from Western African regions and initially sailed to the Guatemala coastline, with the Mandingo Olmec peoples arriving later in Veracruz, Mexico.
Was the goal of Thot's journey to create an Atlantean civilization in a new land? The only way to find out for sure is to follow the path of evidence left behind, leading us all the way to Mesoamerica.
Arriving in Veracruz, Mexico, at the base of the Tuxtla Mountains, we find enormous carved stone heads left behind by the Olmec culture, who seem to possess an advanced understanding of the cycles of the heavens.
Who could have given the Olmec people all of their advanced stone masonry skills to carve such intricate statues and monuments? And could it all lead back to ancient Egypt? Let's look a little further.
Deep in the jungles of Veracruz, we find the most important Olmec sites concentrated around the ruined site of Moventa.
Many feel a deep connection to the natural beauty of the Yucatan, and when fully immersed in the jungle, experience an awakening of their souls, often subdued by the imposing chaotic noise of the modern metropolitan life.